Hey everyone, sorry, I'm not talking. I'm just clicking buttons here and stuff. Happy Friday. Everything's going crazy. Hello from rainy Tennessee. Nice. Up in Tennessee. Hope everyone's doing well.
Good morning.
Hey Ray.
Hi, everybody.
Hey Jean.
I'll have something when you have time.
Bonjour, Sean.
Bonjour, Ray.
Bonjour, Monsieur Lalonde.
Ah, well, good pronunciation.
Comment ça va?
Ça va très bien. Usually I hear Jean Lalonde. That's how English people pronounce my name. Jean Lalonde.
That's awesome.
But it is Jean Lalonde, as you said.
Je suis en Ontario, Toronto, Ontario.
I've seen that, yeah. So we are two Canadians on this call. Maybe more, I don't know.
Yeah, if
don't upset the Americans. Don't upset the Americans.
We have guns. Yes, that's
Beaucoup guns. Beaucoup guns. My God.
So Jean, until someone else says something, why don't you go ahead and share whatever you were gonna show us?
Yeah. Let me share this. You see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start with this piece of code that shows
how to do it.
Shows it works until we do something. So first, to show you what it does, we have two hotkeys, Alt F1 and Alt F2, that both call the command do it here. And the command do it will show that it has been called. And then if the hotkey is Alt F1, it will send Alt F2. So the first hotkey is calling the second hotkey. And this works as expected. So if I press Alt F1, it shows do it with F1, what we have here. And then it calls do it with F2. And of course, I could call Alt F2 by itself. It would just call F2 because the hotkey is not F1, so it will just show that. So that's when it works. So if I undo my changes to come back with what we had before, the issue is when I want to use the if command, the hotkey if command, to restrict these hotkeys to only some situation. And for example, in quick access pop-up, there's a new feature that allows you to exclude hotkeys when you are in certain application. For example, in a game or in Photoshop, if you use a lot of hotkeys in this application, you don't want the hotkeys from quick access pop-up to mess your, your interface. So you exclude some applications. So the way to exclude an application is to have a function here that will check the current situation and return if yes or no, the hotkeys should be executed. So that's the action of the if here. This if, because it is a function, it has to be related to a handle. Not sure exactly why. That's something Lexicos explained on the forum at some point. So this has here to be the same the function name exactly as we use it. And then we have the hotkey function with the do it function, which is the same as we had before. So if, and here finally we have the can do it function, what is called every time Alt F1 or Alt F2 are pressed, the can do it function is called to check if yes or no we should execute these two functions. So for at first, if we do it with return false, so the hotkeys should not work. And if I just save and test it, Alt F2 does nothing, Alt F1 does nothing. Now if I return true instead of yes, instead of false. So for example, true is the window, the active window is allowed to use hotkeys. If it was false, the active window is not allowed. So that's the kind of things that are normally done here, but just for simplification, I just return now true, save, reload. So if I press Alt F2, the function works. But if I press Alt F1, it calls Alt F1, but this part of the command here is not executed. So that's the weird thing.
That's a very interesting situation.
Only when there is a hotkey if that is used, this command does not work. And I tried various send mode to see if input or play or would do better, but they don't do, nothing works. So my question is there some kind of magic that I don't know that would make this work? And since you are the magician,
and actually, this is interesting that you asked this. Let me clarify exactly what you want to do, because I think I have an answer to what you're saying, and it's not using the hotkey if, by the way. Well, at least not using it that way. You're saying there are some hotkeys that you wanted to be allowed or disallowed in a group of applications. So for example, I want to list Notepad, Chrome, and VS Code. I do not want the hotkey to work there, but I want it to work everywhere else. Is that base, or the opposite? I just want the hotkeys to work in very specific situation and in a group of windows. There is a way that is a little bit better than this. In my opinion, this is the one that I use. This, what you're trying to do, I have never even tried it. So I cannot talk to it about why it's failing the second one, because I have no understanding of how it works. But I would say something. It might be because you see this line 13, when you're using this handle here, this is executed before the script is loaded, which means this is read only once, right? At least the handle to it.
Yeah, the handle only, because it's called, then it's called each time you press these hotkeys.
But probably what is going on is that it is not taking into account the physical state of the keyboard versus sending it via the program. The program here on line 23 is sending it as a virtual thing, which it seems like when you use the if statement like you're using it, you're checking for the physical key state on the keyboard, which might relate us to why the send command is not working at all. That's my guess. But let me share my screen for a second, if you can stop there. And let me go ahead and share my screen for a minute. Let me just do this. Let me just open AutoHotkey toolkit, HK toolkit, because in the toolkit, I have exactly what you're referring to, and this is the solution. This is just a loop. You can have it actually as a list of things, but I grab a group of window classes, window titles, right? And add them using the group add command into a group of windows. So as you can see, I'm just using an HK class, Photoshop, HK class, Illustrator, HK class. That's what I'm doing. I'm just looping over. I'm adding it to that. And later on, I can use that group to use it as an if statement. If the window is not active, and when you use this win active HK group like this, it targets all those windows at once. Do you see what I mean? So basically, I do not have to create my own function to do dynamically check for that, right? But I can basically use a win active command with HK group with a group that I previously added with group add. I'm not sure if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I don't see that it is related to the hotkey command that will.
It is. For
Okay,
example,
where is it? Okay.
So notice that here, for example, I also use it in a part of my hotkey. When you're creating a hotkey, you see this part where it says window active or window not active list. You can give it a list of comma delimited programs.
Yeah.
And what the program is doing is for each, here we go, for each of them that you give me with a comma, right? I add them into the group,
to a
not
group.
active, and then I use hotkey if we're not active, and I give it the group's name. So the idea is just group all the windows in a group, and when you use the hotkey command with the if win active or if win not active, instead of a specific window, I just give it the window group, and then I create my hotkey. I just make my hotkey, and then if we're not active. And the fun thing about this is that I could dynamically do it, either turning it on or off. As you're seeing here, I'm disabling it. If you disable the hotkey or delete it, I just delete it. But in general, and that's the point, what you're trying to do, it is possible, but I think it's easier with the group adding. So adding those windows in a group.
So what it does, and it is interesting, is doing part of what my script is doing, and that is working. The part that is not working is when you try to send a hotkey that you would accept or not with your line 3704 by the not active group. Would it allow the script itself to send a hotkey to itself?
That's what I'm thinking. If you do this group add, you have all the windows grouped in one thing. You do not have to depend on this function anymore. And then the send command should work just normal. That's my understanding of it. And we could definitely just try it. So basically what we could do, again, we could just go ahead and group add, right? And if you, in case anybody wonders, what is that? You just have to set a name and some conditions. So the name of the group might be my test group, say, and the condition is going to be, I don't know, notepad plus notepad, and I would add a second one, I don't know, Chrome. And I could do this with hkexe, notepad.exe, right? And hkexe, chrome.exe, say, for example. So I just added those into my test group. I could use my hotkey if hotkey if when active, and then it would be
test group.
So it would be HK group, and then I would use test group here.
Okay.
So that is, if any of those windows are active, then I would use my hotkey, let's say Alt F1, which would do my do it function, whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
And then the hotkey if inactive again. So now return do it would go ahead and first message box test, whatever it is, right? Or
Yeah.
this label, right? At list and then the this hotkey.
Yeah.
Assume. Right, and then let's just say that if this hotkey equals F1, right? Oh,
Alt F2. Alt F2.
Oh no, so what I want to say, if Alt F2.
Oh yeah, you
so
will need on line 6. You would need a second hotkey, which would be Alt F2.
Right,
and,
of course.
Yeah.
That's correct. So they both do this. The F1 would also send F2. Is that what you mean? Right. So this is basically the idea. So let's test something real quick. This is V1 run. So Alt F1. Right. So right now it doesn't do anything because I'm not in any of those any of those windows.
Yeah.
If I open Notepad here, I would expect it to tell me that was working on F2. Okay, but F1 is not triggering F2 either.
Yeah, so we have the same end result.
Right, we have the same.
I like your technique. It would simplify a piece of my code to use groups. I never used that before. I'm just looping and it's not very convenient.
How about,
but we have the same issue here, how a script can call itself using send command.
How you can trigger a hotkey with the send command is what triggering the action. Now,
yeah,
here's the thing.
And it would work if it was not of the if thing. If you remove line 4, it will work.
These two,
yeah, it will work now. Yeah, so this one would not
start it. So if I do F1, yeah, you are right. Now hold on. That is a very interesting one. That is a very interesting situation here, and I guess.
Is there something with the $sign? What is this doing?
No, I know what is going on. I know what is going on. When you call with the send command, well, no, not exactly, because when I press F1 the first time, this hotkey is set to that. But when I send it, then the second time it wouldn't.
It's not called at all. Message box is not shown on the second.
Go sub do it. This should work actually. That should definitely like do it again. But then this hotkey will not show you.
It will. Yeah, it will stay.
It will stay like that is a very. So let me try this one. But in general, I guess this might.
It would create a loop, an infinite loop.
Right. It would just do this over and over.
Yeah, over and over. Yeah.
Right. So yeah. Now, so at this point, what I would say is I might consider this a bug. I would go to the help.
Yeah, I'll report it to the forum.
Right. To verify and confirm that is a bug. Because the fact that if you don't have the window active part, it actually goes ahead and works fine.
And it should work normally.
Oh, think about this. Think about it this way. I think I know what is going on as well. Now it's coming back to me. So when you hit F1, you have a message box. And when you go to, well, whenever you hit OK and you try to call the second one, the if when active directive is not obeyed because the window is not active. Notepad is not really active when you send the second one.
Yeah, but if you just say return true.
Well,
okay. In my case, I was return true.
Yeah, that's correct. You're right
error.
On that one.
So we have the same end situation. Your technique would not allow to give to to return true because there's no function involved using group.
That is
group
correct.
add.
You're right. You're
But we have the
absolutely right
same
there.
issue at the end, so I
Yeah.
doubt that it would.
It would do,
Yeah.
it doesn't have much to do with that one. You're
Yeah.
totally right.
Okay, so I think you confirm that there's no easy or expert
Simple
solution on
answer.
that, and
Exactly.
it may be a bug, as you say. So I will post it on the AHK forum to see what we get, and maybe next week I could follow up on that. Thank you, guys.
So Brian asked about creating a scrollable function to a GUI. I'm not sure if he just means having scroll bars on the GUI on an edit area, or Brian, can you clarify what you were wanting to do?
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I need to be able to scroll up and down a GUI. Let's say I have half my GUI that's not showing.
Yeah.
Time works because I'm using 720 resolution, and it was 1020 for 1080. Is there a way to go down easily?
Well, that's the key phrase right there. Easily. No, there's no way to do that easily, because what is going on is that you have to first add the scroll bars, which is easy. It's just a setting. But the scrolling function about how to display the window while you scroll, you have to do that yourself. And that is not an easy task. Most of the people don't even bother doing that, actually, because it's not as easy as it looks.
Would Isaiah, just for brainstorming on it, would you consider modularizing the GUI and having it where, you know, you have buttons you click to expand different sections, so you're not
that's what I usually
I'm not going to say tabs, because I know from talking to you and Thomas and everyone, and like dealing with tabs alone is another.
Most of the times, well, depending on what you're doing, yeah, it might be a little bit tricky. But just to illustrate what Joe is referring to, in case it's not easy to, like, just saying it might not be enough to understand what we're saying. But here's what I'm referring to. So let's just run this.
Almost think of it like folding in your.
Right. So let's just go ahead and run this. You see, do I have the show? So this is a window that part of it is actually hidden. And when you click the advanced button, it shows up. So that's what we're referring to. It could be to the side or going down if you want. Instead of having a scroll, I would assume that this is a little bit better. And
Isaiah, just to further the point, you could have, when you click save, a different thing show to the right, and cancel a different thing to the right.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
You could have kind of like, and how I do that is that I have it divided into group sections, and I make it visible or invisible. I just make it, how do I say? I make it show or not show depending on that particular button when I click on it. And then I just reset the size of the window to whatever I want it to at that moment. But I usually find it better to get the visibility, show and hide the visibility of it, instead of going ahead and having a scroll bar anywhere. Scrolling in AutoHotkey, well, in any language, actually, it is because of how the scroll functionality works in C++ that AutoHotkey does not handle it natively. So I wouldn't say is that there's any easy alternative to doing that. I wouldn't even try it myself, though.
But I wouldn't try it either. I would just tell Isaiah to do it.
That's a good way. Yeah.
Does anyone else got something they're working on? I see We're talking about the chat AI in YouTube.
Oh,
Yeah, Ryan, or no, Jackie actually showed that to me the other day, and we were playing around with it, and like, oh, it is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Let's see.
Who else has something they're working on or wants to share? Good morning from New York. Do you think AutoHotkey used in the web browsing testing? Boy, this is actually comparing a Puppeteer for web form login testing.
Puppeteer. Let me see. Does HK compare to it? Well, no, not exactly. They do not compare in the sense of those are two different tools with different focus, right? So Puppeteer is yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna because it's really funny that this came up. The chat AI that we just mentioned. So I was talking to Jackie when Jackie mentioned it to me, and I'm like, hey, I typed into it, how do you web scrape with AutoHotkey? It answered, web scraping is a very complicated thing, and even though you can web scrape with AutoHotkey, it's probably best to be using a tool that's dedicated to that. I'm like,
exactly.
Jesus, like, yeah, I don't think I could have given a better answer myself.
No, and the idea behind something dedicated to a specific task usually makes it better at that task. Now, what is the difference between AutoHotkey and those automation tools? Is that AutoHotkey gives you the flexibility of doing whatever you want. It's just more work and more time to dedicate to it. While that tool, they already did the work for that one thing, and it's going to do that one thing good. As soon as you want to do something else a little bit outside of the scope of the tool, then you're going to find yourself, oh, how can I do this? It's going to be difficult to do. So I cannot compare them directly because they're two different things, right? But in general, I would say that anything you do with Puppeteer, you can do without a hotkey. Yeah, you can. It's just that you have to do it yourself, and you will have to know what you're doing. Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work.
And thankfully, I see Irfan's here. With Rufadium, it does allow at least, okay, now we can do stuff in multiple browsers. He's consistently pretty well, but I'd still say AutoHotkey for me, it's much more. I don't do a lot of web scraping with it. I will interact with the form or this or that, but I usually switch over to doing API calls, and I don't actually, use the browser. Right, like when I'm doing stuff in our browser and AutoHotkey, it's usually to automate logging in or getting a small piece of information, but I wouldn't be using it for a lot of complicated stuff personally. Especially when you get back to, there's other tools like Python that's multi-threaded built into it, and it can do, there's some great libraries out there that are built for some of the stuff.
I would ask something. So when you said that, Puppeteer, is it for getting the data from the web pages or testing the browser? Like, yeah, it is. It looks like it is UI testing that you're doing.
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to do?
Well, and back, Isaiah, to the stuff you've been doing lately with your testing, how you build your code, right? And kind of, it makes me think of regression testing of like, I build tests for certain things, and then I can go repeat those tests when I want to very easily. And that's one of them, like, you can do that, right? Like you're saying, we're not saying you can't do it, but
right. So again, you're doing the UI testing for login only. At that point, I would definitely suggest the Rufadium library. So because with Rufadium, it's easy to connect to the tab, try to go ahead and set the login and hit enter. That's not that difficult. As soon as you try to interact more with the GUI, it might get harder and harder. But I think if it is just for logging in, is simple, is great. Actually, the guy who created Rufadium was here in the call a few seconds ago. Probably he just logged out for a bit, but he's headed home. Okay. But in that case, like, yeah, it's definitely something that I would try if it is just the login. As soon as you start trying to automate more stuff, I wouldn't dive too deep into it because there's a lot of things that you have to take into account.
And some of those other tools, automate taking screenshots of the stuff for you and just doing a lot of other things that are, really cool. And again, which we talk about this with AutoHotkey, you can do this, you can program it yourself to do it, but that means it's a lot more work in the start, right? So we as much as we mostly talk about AutoHotkey here, it's not the only tool we use. It depends what we're actually doing.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, can HK connect to open source password database programs like UPass for auto login to a website?
Yep. If it has an APIs, and when you say that it's open source, very likely it has some kind of API or something like that. Yeah, definitely. You can definitely connect to it and just use that.
Didn't I think I put it in the newsletter. There was another breach of security for one of the main password protection, storing tools for browsers.
That's insane.
Hey, real quick, if there's no one else that has something, I wanted to give you guys an update. Last week, I told you guys I was having problems with my GUI populating the values. And when I looked at it later, it would erase the value. What it was doing was it was doing exactly what I told it to do. And it was updating the way. I just didn't think about that. So I had to put a pause function, essentially, tell it not to update, back to the GUI, back to the way, until it finished populating the GUI to begin with.
All right. So basically, you had to create kind of like a stop for whatever updates you were doing when you do that, right? So, and this is the part. This is the part that most of the times we say, "Hey, it's not working," and most of the times it's doing exactly what you told it to do.
Yeah, it can be so annoying when the script does exactly what you told it to do.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I want it to do what I want it to do, not what I told it to do.
Right, exactly. That's for sure.
Yeah, we actually, I don't think we've released it yet, but we have a video saying basically, look, for the most part, AutoHotkey is not buggy. It's our code. When we have problems with it, it's usually our code. I mean, actually, so the thing John demonstrated earlier, that maybe that is a bug, right? But it's just usually a problem with our code and in nailing it down exactly where it's breaking. And again, because it's usually your assumptions are wrong, right? Like that's the biggest thing. And you're not questioning your assumptions and learning how to troubleshoot. It's, it's painful, but boy, it helps.
Maybe in the future, we'll have something that will connect with our mind. And when you say do it, it will do what you have in your mind.
You got to go watch some videos from Elon Musk.
That's what I was going to say. Elon's working on it. Just give him time.
It's getting pretty crazy. But even the chat AI thing they mentioned too, like, we are getting to where you can put a request out there and have stuff done for you. And it's, it's getting there. Oh, hey, Hellbent's on.
Oh, hi, good morning. This is Anthony from New York. Is my audio better?
No.
No, it's not.
We discovered something last week. What was it?
That was because of the microphone trying to cut the feedback.
Right.
So if you put the microphone a little bit farther away from your speakers, it might help a little bit.
Or use headphones.
It's probably the noise cancellation.
Or just literally turn down the volume when you talk.
Right, yeah. It can happen. It's just probably mainly the noise cancellation feature. But he just left the channel while I was saying that, so he doesn't know what I said.
Yeah, we didn't mean to.
No, I know.
I see Hellbent joined. Hey, Hellbent.
Or use headphones.
It's probably the noise
Or just
cancellation.
literally turn down the volume when you talk.
Right, yeah.
So I could hear the video now from YouTube.
Yeah.
The noise cancellation feature. But
Yeah.
he just left the channel while I was saying that. So
Hellbent, I think that I just muted you real quick. If you can mute your YouTube channel.
Right.
Morning, folks. So it's good to see you, man. Been a while. So now we have 3 Canadians.
Yeah. There you go.
You guys are taking over. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how's it going, guys?
Everything good. Everything good. How are
That's
you?
good. I'm good. It's cold here.
So
So what are you working on?
we have been working
Gonna ask a
few
question,
different things,
hopefully.
yeah.
Yeah, we've been busy. We've been real busy.
Actually, Hellbent, I did have a question for you. You deal a lot with GDI, is that correct, right?
A decent amount, yeah, with the library, yeah.
Right. So is it one of the things that I was trying to do is using, I know that we create from the screen a bitmap that we can have in memory. So is that something that, how do I say? Because I've seen that we have to use kind of like a file to kind of like search for images somewhere else. But is it possible to use a bitmap that is on memory to search for it on the screen without having to create a temporary file? So that's something that, have you ever?
I would imagine so, but I've never used the functions for image search. I think Tea Drinker and from the forum and Boiler. I think Boiler is probably the best person to ask about that.
Boiler. Oh,
yeah.
Right. And so in any case, those image search functions, are they from the GDI library, or are you talking about the AutoHotkey one?
I don't know how they have their own, like somebody wrote a class or something like that, a bunch of functions that deal with image search in particular. So what I think I'm not very clear on it, but what I think it does is it takes like a stream and it just compares bits from a stream that you're looking at and the stream that has in memory.
Okay. Hopefully. I
think you need I think you can work with your something that you have in your memory. I don't think you need something in your file.
Yeah, that's what
that doesn't make sense to me that you would need that. Like, it sounds like it would probably need to be converted into a bitmap in memory and then compared either way. So you're talking about, you want to take like a screenshot and then search for that thing without saving it, right?
Exactly. Just in memory, because and probably if doable, instead of using GDI itself, probably DirectX would be a better approach, which I could just use the graphics card, pass it the handle to the bitmap that represents the screen, and pass it a bitmap of something that I'm looking on it, searching for it, and then just compare the two and see if it finds it. But if it is done with the graphics card, it would usually be
I would assume it would be faster. I would assume
exactly. That's basically what I'm thinking of.
Most of the stuff I do, it doesn't speed isn't really that important. Like if it takes 100 milliseconds to draw something, it doesn't really matter. It's like you can't even do this.
No, that's right. That's cool. That was one of my questions.
I think the best result is you'd have to, like, just with the GDI stuff, you'd have to get into writing in C.
Oh, okay.
To get real speed.
Okay, cool. Let me see.
So Alexander was at, and Anthony, if you want to unmute yourself now, but Alexander was asking about an API call and parsing. He was using readline, which that's what threw me. I was trying to give an example of taking
this is the MS XML. So this is the not the HTTP object, but the XML one. The other one that you talk about, Joe, that is the one that has all the
headers and stuff.
the
Cookies.
headers,
Yeah.
right, the cookies is stored. So he's using the other version, right?
Yep.
But that read right there, I'm not sure if that's really needed before the response text. But I could just test it. Like, let me just write this. And I think his question, what I was gonna say, let me share my screen while I do the test. So
Oh, I misread it. I'm sorry. I saw a read line. I thought I didn't see read, and I didn't look at his actual code.
right. So the code is this one, but here's the point. Let's say that I go to google.com, say for example, this should, and I don't know if I need the read though. Let me try something. Let me see. Access is denied. Is it because it's 32-bit? No. Okay. So I cannot access the MX XML2. No worries. We have also this one here that would do the same thing.
And just the other day, I was trying to do something with this, and I actually was getting a COM error where it couldn't register that DLL.
Right. That's basically what's going on. So here's the thing. By the way, guys, let me explain what I just did. So this object here, the win HTTP request, is very similar to the other object that was here, this one here, the XML HTTP. The difference between them is that one is meant for the client. This is the client version, which is, for example, a browser that has cookies and stuff like that. And it handles a lot of stuff for you. The other one is meant for servers, and it doesn't handle anything. You have to do everything yourself. But in the end, they both work the same. And for Alexander, I don't know if you're watching this, but basically, you got this text here, and if you see it, it's an HTML document. What you can do with it is also have a COM object create HTML file like this. And this is another COM object that allows you to manipulate document objects. Now, there's a few details with it because it uses the IE kind of thing. So you have to make sure that the document that you're creating has a meta tag in it. But what you do with it is that you document write, and we're going to write two things into it. Let me just get the meta tag about it. So this is the meta tag.
And in my API syntax writer, I have an example of like this that you can just click and it dumps all this text.
Right.
I also put a link to the video where I discussed the differences between the two COM objects,
right,
and what you get with them, which
might be very
yeah. But if you're it's totally new to it, it's good to review.
So I'm putting the meta tag and the HTML that I got into this object, and then I could try to get and use functions, the ones that you got, like get elements by ID. I would be able to use it here. You see,
Yeah, you can navigate the DOM after you've
right, or by name, for example.
Gotcha.
Right. So, but this object, which is the HTML file object, is the one that will expose all these methods. Be careful, as I mentioned, because this is not the normal DOM. So if you try to do the query selector all like this, it might not work. Because if it doesn't, and I don't even know if this would work right away. Let me try something. I think body, for example, dot inner HTML. I don't know if that would work. Yeah, I thought so, because this query selector all is not working, but I think get elements by name, body, and I would get the first element that comes in because it is a list.
I wasn't looking at the time, but what error was it? Because that's the query selector all is an array.
It's not, oh, well, yes, it's correct. You're right, actually. Let me try that. Query selector all.
Because
Body
this is the one
zero.
now. Class name is the one.
Yes, there it
Yeah.
is.
So if you're getting by class, that was the one by class by class.
Gets
That's where
one,
you need to level up the IE instance,
right?
Otherwise, that's not available. This is the one that threw me a couple weeks ago when you're like, no, query selector all is built into it. And I'm like, I swear it wasn't, but it was class name is the one that I'm like,
Right.
oh, that's the one that
This is something that you have to keep in mind. If you use query selector, it would return just one thing that matches, and you can just go ahead and get the inner HTML like that. As soon as you use the word all, then it returns an array. So you cannot just simply go ahead and do that because the array doesn't have that. But then you select the first element in the array, and in HTML, the first element is the 0 element. And when you do this, then it would work also just fine. But as you can see, I am calling those functions that you're referring to, like, for example, get elements by ID, or get elements, if I could spell it, elements by tag. Is that like,
tag name.
That's by tag name?
I believe so.
Right. And again, if it says get elements, it's going to be returning an array. So you have to actually get the array. But again, you could access those functions that or methods that you're referring to by creating this COM object and shoving the HTML into it. But I would always put this meta tag right there just to make sure that you don't get some surprises. You get them anyways, but you might want to try that. That's one way of trying it.
And Anthony,
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So, and just, I have a web scraping syntax writer. Sorry, I was trying to, because I have an API syntax writer and a web scraping syntax writer. And it's kind of weird because what you're touching on there is you kind of could use both, right? There's the API syntax writer to give you templates of using both the regular WinHP request or the XML version. But then when you load it into the DOM, that's where the API syntax writer could come in really handy to help. It really helps when you look at it. It was written for IE, but it'll be very easy to adapt.
Right.
Anthony Alvarez, because I know earlier you were trying to talk, and looks like you got some headphones and stuff. Did you?
Yeah, I got some headphones now. I hope the audio is coming better.
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Way better. Excellent. Now, somebody, before we jump in, somebody said, like Ray said, like if we would be interested in seeing a 5-minute demo of the Chat GPT. It seems that he has it set up. We were definitely talking about that a few minutes ago, about how cool it is that you can connect to that API and make it do interesting stuff. Let's see if Joe, you wanted to answer Anthony before.
Well, we got 2 questions in the queue.
Right, exactly. That's what I meant. So
yeah.
What were the questions that are in queue?
Well, Anthony Alvarez, I believe, did you have a question? Because you started to talk.
Well, he typed it, I think.
I'm sorry.
The most popular.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So basically, we got to use API syntax writer and then go to API web scraping to finish off the login. Is that your suggestion, Joe?
Well, it really gets back to what is your goal, right? Because are you trying to, after you log into a site, what are you going to do?
Log out.
just log in. Just simple.
Right. So he's automated the browser itself. It's not an API thing. He's not getting data. He just wants to verify that when you're in the browser, connects to it, make sure that it logs in, logs out, and tries the next one. Logs in, logs out. But the thing is, as we were mentioning before, automating browsers might be a little bit tricky. So I was suggesting, and you're asking about a library that is popular, the Rufadium library would be the one that actually helps you connecting to Chromium-based browsers like Chrome, Edge, Opera, those kind of things, and also Firefox. So you can try it in those. I don't know if it supports all of the browsers, which I doubt, but at least those main ones, you can use it for it.
Can I just follow up and just ask? I mean, can I just use a normal browser window, or do I have to use some kind of like special browser window, like an incognito window, or some, I don't know, development window?
No.
Because
So yes, you do need a special window, but the library itself launches Chrome in that special mode. So you don't have to do anything. You just use the library, say new instance, new Chrome, and it automatically does that for you. So you don't have to do anything special.
Okay, I'll try it. Thank you.
Yeah, we have, I'd say what, at least 5 videos on using Rufadium.
Yeah, we do.
So yeah, but that's where it gets back to also, if you're trying to imitate different browsers, then absolutely, that's where I would definitely be using Rufadium. Because what we discussed here isn't really, you're not testing browsers at all.
What was
Okay,
the
and
other
I'm sorry,
question, actually?
I don't know why your picture in the Zoom I thought it was a different Anthony, so that's why I thought we had 2 different. So my bad.
Yeah. So you said, Joe, that there was another question. Can you?
No, well, that was, I thought there were 2.
Okay.
I hadn't heard Anthony speak, so I thought he had a question, and then I thought there was another one in the chat. But
okay.
Yeah.
So at that point, maybe if Ray's still there, maybe you can show that real quick. We have a few minutes left. That would be interesting to see.
Yeah, okay, if I could share my screen.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Which screen? Okay, this screen.
I'm hoping that's a
always the
rhetorical
question. Yeah.
We're not making fun of you, Ray. It's just Zoom can be so
Right, so annoying. Yeah. Like that is always the question.
Okay, do you see my
Yeah, we're good.
screen here? Chat open.
Right, yeah.
AIC?
yeah.
Okay, so this is an AI program called Chat GPT.
Right.
So this is the prompt that I put in, right? Write 8 examples of text message style aimed to increase the probability that a busy software developer would be interested in watching me demonstrate ChatGPT's ability to write code in hotkey. And so these are the 8 prompts.
Okay.
Okay. Now, here's what I put in that's more relevant to hotkey. Just let me copy the prompt. Okay, so here, okay, copy, okay, paste. So I do this and I do enter. Did I do it right? Yeah. Okay, there's the prompt. Okay, so here's the little indication that it's thinking. Chat GPT is thinking. You have to be able to, okay, so here's what it comes back with.
That's awesome.
So I told Isaias this when I was chatting with Jackie.
Yeah.
I asked, what did I ask? I asked it to write some code for doing something, and it actually returned back an auto it function.
And I'm looking at this and I see it is trying to put, you see the comments that is put in there, like create main directories, is using the hashtag instead of the normal semicolon. So I can tell.
It's only trained up to some month in 2021.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's still.
What I was wondering was if you would take over my screen. Like I just had a very simple prompt there because I'm just beginning an AutoHotkey, right? So I was wondering if you might be interested in taking over and building
something interesting,
more challenging.
We can try that in the next calls. Don't worry.
Okay.
But this is a very interesting demo. It's just I at least it got the commands correctly. Like the file create there is an AutoHotkey command, but the comments are different. So that gets me, it is correct that the AI is trying to do this, right? But how did it, why did it think that the comment character was the hashtag is kind of interesting to me. I don't know how it got that. And I would try to make it also, I would try to just right there, just tell it, repeat the previous thing, but use semicolon as the comment, you know, just to see if it knows what to do, right? No, but we will do that in the next call. Don't worry.
So
Use the what?
The semicolon, like
Semicolon
as the comment,
comment indicator, right?
Ha, I don't know if you would, I don't know if they would understand that.
And then
that would be interesting.
okay, again, this is the indication that it's thinking.
Oh, there you go.
it did it.
Oh, wow.
So when I was talking to Jackie, after I did the first one, then I said, write a love letter to my wife for Christmas. And it dumped in the most incredible, like, love story. Like, I knew I couldn't send it to my wife because she know it wasn't for me. I'm like, Jesus, this is good. It was really good. Like, so, but I think the thing is with AutoHotkey, we're very niche, right? And this is early.
Yes.
Like if you were doing stuff in Python, probably it'd probably be much more accurate.
Right, that's
But,
correct.
Because there's a lot more examples out there, right? And that's what it's.
I would assume that.
Well,
yes.
so I was hoping that Isaiah might take it over and give it a challenge.
Well, the thing is, Ray, you're asking Isaiah to take over a 2-year-old and get a 2-year-old to do amazing things. Right?
Yeah, but
My point is, right now, it doesn't matter who's driving; it's
Right.
still a 2-year-old, right?
Right.
It's not going to be able to do too much more. Not yet. Now, honestly, like in 3 days, right? It might be like this is the way AI works, right? We
Right.
can't think linearly like years. It can happen so quickly. It's just
Right.
it's not there yet. But having what I would say is writing very concise, clear, specifications, because I played with them more about drawing and stuff, and you got to be very precise in what you're looking for. That helps. But yeah,
That's for
it's
sure.
Well, I find the edit code, like what I do is here, you saw me amend my query. I detect skepticism. Allow me to say, I detect skepticism. But I'm curious about, like, I'm such a beginner, I don't know how to test it or evaluate it. And I was hoping to work with Isaiah to develop some kind of test, to test out its abilities.
Yeah, I will check. I already loaded it here. I noticed that I did have a login for OpenAI. So I already logged in, and the first thing that I asked it is just like, hey, what do you know about AutoHotkey? And it just gave me this. I will.
What should I do? Should I stop sharing?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's okay.
Like, did you want to share?
basically
We're all out of the time, yeah. But in general, that's the only thing that I did with it. I just asked it, what does it know about AutoHotkey?
Okay,
And it automatically told me what it thinks about it. So it is, I'm going to play with it a little bit. And
so click. Oh, okay, we're at a time or something.
yes, we're at that time. So I was just showing what that I'm, it will understand more or less what you can do with it, but I will test it. I'm going to play with it a little bit and see what happens.
Great. Okay, I'll yield.
Don't worry, we will be talking in the next call.
Well, thanks everyone for being here. Hero members, you know where to go. So the Zoom
Thank you for having me.
links there. Thanks everyone for being here. We'll see you next week. Have an awesome weekend.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.